All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's presentation, Nourishing People, Nurturing the Planet, Saving Grace, Perishable Food Rescue. So thank you all for being here. My name is Kian, and I am an AmeriCorps member serving with Conservation Nebraska's Common Ground program. Conservation Nebraska's mission is to protect our state's natural legacy by educating the public, supporting communities, and increasing civic engagement. Before I introduce tonight's speaker, I have a couple of housekeeping rules to go over. So for everybody that's joining online, just know that your cameras are off and you will be muted throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A section or in the chat, and we will get those answered throughout the presentation and after the presentation. Also, we will have a very brief survey at the very end of the presentation that takes about 1 minute to complete. This survey helps support programming like this one, so we appreciate everybody taking the time to fill those out. And finally, I want to welcome Rita Heaston-Clark, who is the Senior Manager of Development and Partnerships at Saving Grace. Rita has been with Saving Grace for 2 years in a key fundraising and community outreach role, and she came to the organization having worked at partner agencies that include both a homeless shelter and a food pantry. So thank you, Rita, for taking time out of your evening, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kyan. I appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here today to talk to you about Saving Grace Perishable Food Rescue. As she said, my name is Rita Heaston-Clark. I'm the Senior Manager for Development and Partnerships, so I handle all of our fundraising and community outreach. So during tonight's presentation, I'm going to share some insights about the pressing issue of food waste, profound implications, and how Saving Grace is addressing these challenges. I figured out how to make this. There we go. This is my email and cell phone, so if you want to get a hold of me after the presentation, you are more than welcome to ask any questions during the presentation this evening, or go ahead and email me or text me for answers to questions that come up at a later date. So I'm going to set the stage here. We're going to talk about the scale of food waste, its social impacts, its environmental consequences, and the solutions for reducing food waste. Nearly 40% of food that is produced in the United States goes to waste every year. That's about 119 billion, yes, billion pounds of food. This waste costs the United States $449 billion annually, and that would equate to 149 billion meals for those that are in need. Here in Nebraska, we waste about 600,000 tons of food each year. Perishables like fruits, vegetables, dairy, proteins make up the significant portion of this waste. Shockingly, again, over 40% of this surplus food ends up in the landfills, and only about 17% is composted. This is not just a number. It represents a massive loss of resources. Think about the energy, water, and labor that go into growing, harvesting, transporting, and preparing food that ultimately never gets eaten. For example, wasting a single hamburger is equivalent to wasting enough water to shower for 90 minutes. These staggering figures highlight the urgent need for change. If we could cut household waste, which as you can see is almost 47% of the waste in the state of Nebraska, we could keep 120 million pounds of food out of our landfills. No small feat, but it is achievable. So food waste and food insecurity are deeply interconnected. Food insecurity means a lack of consistent access to enough food for every person in a household to live an active, healthy life. Most people experiencing food insecurity live at or below the federal poverty level. For example, someone who is working full-time at the federal minimum wage of $7.25 earns just $14,580 annually before taxes. After paying rent, utilities, transportation, and other basic needs, little remains for food. Food insecurity doesn't just impact individuals, it affects entire communities. Children who experience food insecurity are more likely to face developmental delays and perform poorly in schools. Seniors on fixed incomes often have to choose between buying medicine or food, and the stress of not knowing where your next meal will come from can take a toll on your mental health. In our local community, more than 100,000 people in the Douglas, Sarpy, and Pottawatomie counties are food insecure, with 26,000 roughly being children, and that would be someone under the age of 19. Rising costs for housing, transportation, and food exacerbate this issue, leaving many reliant on food pantries. And if you've ever been to a food pantry, most of that food lacks nutritional diversity needed for healthy living. And let's take a moment to just consider the ripple effect of food insecurity. When families are forced to skip meals, children are unable to focus in school, leading to poorer academic performance. Adults might struggle to maintain consistent employment due to health issues caused by inadequate nutrition. This cycle perpetuates poverty and deepens social inequality. So wasting food isn't just a social issue, it's an environmental crisis. When food decomposes in landfills, it produces methane, a greenhouse gas that is over 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. If food waste were a country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases globally. For instance, did you know that it could take a single head of lettuce up to 25 years to decompose in a landfill? Reducing food waste can have significant environmental benefits. Keeping 120 million pounds of food out of Nebraska's landfills would save the equivalent emissions of 3,148 vehicles driven for a year and conserve water equivalent to 11,105 Olympic-sized swimming pools. This food could also provide over 100 million meals for those in need. Beyond emissions, consider the land use. Globally, about 30% of our agricultural land is used to grow food that is never eaten. By reducing food waste, we can lessen the strain on ecosystems, preserve biodiversity, and ensure resources are used more effectively. Another often overlooked aspect of food waste is its impact on water resources. Agriculture accounts for about 70% of global freshwater use. When food is wasted, all the water used to grow that and produce that food is also wasted. For example, producing 1 pound of beef requires approximately 1,800 gallons of water. Reducing food waste is one of the most effective ways to conserve water resources globally. So what can we do? Oh, I went too far, too fast. Let me go back. There are many practical steps that we as individuals can take to reduce our household food waste. Plan your meals. Make a shopping list and stick to it. It's one of the hardest things that we have to do, is to make that list, plan ahead, and then stick to that list when we go to the store. As we know, don't go to the store hungry. Eat what's in your fridge first. Rotate your older items to the front. I live in a household where leftovers are not the preferred meal, but they do end up being a meal sometimes. And that's just what we have to do to make sure we're not throwing away food. Freeze food. You can preserve items before they spoil. Vegetables, produce, eggs are able to be frozen, etc. Understand the sell by and the best before labels. These dates are guidelines, they are not expiration rules. These are actually marketing tools that most companies have come to use over the years to sell the food faster and allow for newer, fresher food to be put out for sale. There's one food product in the entire United States that actually has a regulated date on it, and that is baby formula. No other food is required to have a sell by or a use by date. Share your excess food. One of the things that we are most excited about as Saving Grace is we are getting ready to launch our second community fridge. Our first one is currently at the In Common building on about 40th and Hamilton, excuse me. And our second one will open at the new culture building in North Omaha. What the community fridge does is it allows neighbor to share with neighbor. Put your items in a Tupperware or a baggie or a reusable, some sort of reusable storage so that the person who gets it has a storage item. I tend to reuse I buy the lunch meat in the little containers for quick lunches. And so those are the containers that I tend to give away most often when I'm giving food to someone. Sharing with neighbors, sharing with family, and then again at the local community fridges. They allow for both shelf-stable items and perishable items. There is a freezer and a fridge, and they do allow you to share that food. Composting. We have great resources in Omaha for composting, and I am pretty darn sure we probably have some great resources throughout the state that can be utilized for composting as well. There is a compost club here in Omaha through Hillside Solutions, and it allows you to take the food that you might otherwise put in the trash, put it in a compost bin, and then drop that off at a compost site in and around town. Those are all small steps that we as individuals can do, but when adopted collectively, we can make that 10% difference. So what is Saving Grace's role in food rescue? We were founded in 2013 with the mission of rescuing perishable food and redistributing it to feed people while reducing methane emissions. We're based on a model out of Phoenix, Arizona, which has professional drivers. Our drivers are not volunteers. They are staff members and employees of the organization. We partner with businesses such as Hy-Vee, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Greenberg Fruit, the CHI Center downtown, and then the 4 CHI hospitals to collect high quality, nutritious foods such as produce, proteins, dairy, and grains. The food is then delivered free of charge to around 45 nonprofit organizations, including emergency shelters, food pantries, senior centers, and after-school programs. Produce, proteins, and dairy are among the most requested items because they are rarely donated, but essential for a balanced diet. By rescuing this food, we're addressing both hunger and environmental sustainability. Since our founding, Saving Grace has rescued over 9 million pounds of food, diverting it from the landfill and turning it into meals for those in need. So I'm just going to show you some examples of some food we've picked up through 2024. We were able to pick up 6 pallets of bananas from Greenberg Fruit. Prepared foods from the CHI centers, the top right. We are one of the few organizations in town that will actually take prepared food, so that is catered food, food that is meant to go out on a buffet but never actually makes it to a buffet. The bottom right is items from Vala's Pumpkin Patch. If you've ever been there, you know they don't just do pumpkins. They have a restaurant. They have things available to people. So we were able to pick up everything that was left over at the end of the season. On the left here is Bergen Mercy Hospital's central kitchen. We were able to pick up, and we do actually do pickups 3 times a week from the CHI hospitals. Top right is Film Streams. They had an event and had some leftover boxed lunches that we were able to capture. And then the bottom right is our most exciting venture to date. We partnered up with the Omaha Farmers Market at the Old Market and Exarban Village, and we're able to capture roughly just shy of 7,000 pounds of produce and proteins throughout the summer months of the farmers market. We are planning to partner with them again going into 2025, and what that will look like, we're still working on, but that's a very exciting thing to be able to capture all that fresh produce and then proteins from some of the meat vendors. And then the left side is delivery post farmers market to Santa Francis House, which is one of our partners. Bottom right is Open Door Mission. And then the top right is the community fridge at the In Common building at 40th and Hamilton. So we pick up in the mornings, we deliver in the afternoons. We do not warehouse any food. Everything we pick up is distributed that day because it is perishable and therefore it has a short shelf life. So we want to make sure that that food does not get wasted and does not get thrown away. So we make sure we're delivering it to our partners throughout throughout the day. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We rely on private donations and grants. Funding is only a part of our solution, though. We raise awareness about food waste, and that is equally important. And contrary to some beliefs, donating perishable food is perfectly legal, safe, and absolutely necessary to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food Donation Act put into law in 1996 and modified in 2020, protects food donors from liability when they donate to nonprofits in good faith. This federal law encourages businesses and individuals to donate surplus food rather than throw it away. However, most businesses are unfamiliar with this law. It is not a widely publicized law, and we are currently working with both the City of Omaha and the state legislature to hopefully enact some legislation within the state and within the city that defines food rescue and food donation more clearly. So in addition to monetary support, our partnerships are vital. Whether it's the local business that's donating, the local nonprofit that's receiving, schools and community organizations, anywhere where we can extend our reach and amplify our impact is important to us. Every partnership we have brings us closer to a future where no food is wasted and no one goes hungry. So food waste is a solvable problem with significant social and environmental benefits. It requires a collective action from individuals, businesses, and governments. Every small step, whether it's rescuing leftovers, supporting food recovery programs, or advocating for systemic change, makes a difference. So you are a conservation organization. We all have to work together to reduce our food waste and build a more sustainable, equitable world. So thank you all for your time. I know this was kind of short and sweet, but food waste is food waste, and it doesn't change doing, the work that we do. We want to make sure that this food is not being thrown away because it is high quality, as you could see from the photos, high quality food, and it deserves to be eaten. So thank you for your time and attention. Let's make things better in this world.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't see any questions in the Q&A. However, I do have a question.
Yes.
Do you foresee Saving Grace ever collecting from individuals in the future? Like if you have a big Thanksgiving meal, you have leftovers, can you package it up and give that to Saving Grace in the future, you think?
So that's where those community fridges come into play, is that because we are a large, we tend to pick up larger donations. So we do ask that in order to pay for our trucks and our staff time, that if we're going to come pick something up, it be able to feed a minimum of 25 people to
Okay.
make it worth our time and effort. But we will be, like I said, we're launching our second community fridge. The goal is to have an additional 2 more in 2025, potentially 3 more. And that is where those individual donations are ideally going to go.
Okay, that's good to know. Do you have like a map that people can access so they know where they can take things to?
I will make sure we get one up on our website. Absolutely.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Yeah, that's great.
yes, I'm going to make that note right now.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's always a good question is can individuals, right now we are mostly a business to business. You know, if somebody has something at their home and they're working with a caterer, we tend to work with the caterer to pick up any excess because there is a process with the food that we do because all of our drivers and all of our leadership staff goes through a food handling training. And
That's great.
so we learn, how to bring things down to temperature, what is required to, properly store food.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for taking time out of your night to present.
Yes, no, I'm happy, we'll keep it short, sweet, to the point, and like I said, please feel free to reach out with any questions at all.
Yeah, definitely. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.